Welcome to this online healing retreat. Our program starts shortly. First, create your sacred space and listen to this music from the universe, literally created by the universe as mathematical equations were assigned to musical notes. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Our program starts shortly. Hello and welcome to this online healing retreat, Sacred Symbols of Light with Dr. Jean Logan. Dr. Jean Logan is quite special, one of a very authentic person who is really connected in and dialed in to her purpose here on our beloved planet Earth. We thank you for joining us and sharing in this retreat today. You're going to learn about some pretty spectacular glyphs. I call them spectacular because they are metaphysical. They come from source. And you will feel the power of these glyphs as we learn how they were programmed and how they indeed were created. So I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jean Logan of the Holy Ground Farm. Jean, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you so much. I am really excited and thrilled to be here today. I am just, I can't tell you how grateful I am for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for being here and taking your time on this Sunday. I want to start by saying you had shared with me that one of the listeners and one of the person who has your book and is producing it into a workshop as well, or a Spanish version, he had a very interesting message from the Syrians. Can you share that story?
He asked the Syrians for information about glyphs, and first they told him about the background on glyphs, and then they said these particular glyphs that I'm presenting are coming from Source, who gives them to angelic beings to translate into a format that is usable by us humans. So he has the Source has the intention of what he wants. The angelic beings then give me what needs to be done to present them to people. As far as the wording goes, as far as the picture goes, and also the affirmations.
Okay. So everyone listening, you have the download of the book, Sacred Symbols of Light, and those glyphs are what we're going to review today. Again, they're empowered by Source so that we can evolve, we can ascend, and we can come into our full power. And this is really, as Dr. Jean says, by removing all that is holding us back. And that involves health and spirituality as well. Even our thought forms that create the illnesses and dis-ease within our bodies. So let's start first with the first glyph, Jean. I will start there. Let's see. Here we go.
I wanted to add to that that the people ask, how often should I use it? And the Syrians said that they would like to see people use it 40 times, and by that I'm thinking they're talking about the emotional healing glyphs or the physical healing glyphs. Some you would use just on a case-by-case basis. So we're going to go ahead and talk about number 11, which is the circulation. And what that will do will assist in removing blockages in the circulation. Also, it will help remove plaque in the arteries and in the heart. And if you put them, what I do after you use glyphs a while, I will take a block of 4 different glyphs and I will wrap them in a piece of cotton and put them behind my bra strap. And that's one, it will be working on my heart. And also you could take one and put it on the back of your neck, on the back of the neck chakra. And when I do that, when it's real still and when I first wake up in the morning, I can feel it cleaning out these arteries on the sides of the neck. And forgive me for my pronunciation, it's the carotid arteries, I believe they are. There's certain artery, and this is what is responsible for dementia. When we have these arteries filling up with plaque and oxygen cannot get to the brain. So when people say, have you got anything for dementia, then I would recommend using this one on the back of the neck. It will also, over time, depending upon the length of time or the severity, will help with other vein problems.
Okay, that's fascinating that you could feel that. You could feel it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Wow, big time.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, here's the next one.
One will be number 12. Okay. When I used this myself, I could feel it. I could just feel something going on in my bladder, and it was just, the intention is to strengthen and to remove any toxic matters or pathogens from the body, from the bladder, and to remove any emotional blockages that are in the bladder. And also rebuild the bladder wall and return it to its original blueprint. That's another one that you would, depending upon your situation, you would want to use regularly. And these glyphs, remember that we need to use these with the emotional healing glyphs, because the cause of the problems with whether it's circulation or the bladder, and the bladder is a big issue, that we often have emotional problems connected to when we have a nervous bladder or different bladder conditions. It would do the same for the urethra.
And I'm reminded to ask how we would use these on animals quickly, because even cutting one of these out and putting it on your dog would help with that.
Oh, absolutely. These glyphs are so valuable on animals. They really are. Yes, and dogs, as they get older, often get problems with incontinence or different bladder problems, and that could be so helpful to them. And they heal so rapidly, more so than humans, because they have no doubts or skepticism. And I would put them on the, oh boy, that's a tough one. it's in the book. There's in the book that shows the back, I would say the back of the sacral chakra or the root chakra. You might dowse for that. Or get your inner guidance, that would help.
Yes, and I love that you just mentioned dowsing because, you know, that's an essential part as well. People who know how to dowse can work with these glyphs and get better answers. For those who may not have been on the first webinar that we've done, these little symbols down in the lower right corner of this glyph that looks like fire signs, light language, Hebrew.
Yes, it is. It's a Hebrew name of God.
Okay.
I wanted no doubt about where these are coming from. I also don't want the FDA coming after me for anything.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on now. We can work with bones and cartilage.
Yes. Oh, that's a great one. The ones for the bones and cartilage. There's actually one in both books that will help bones and cartilage, but this one here will help repair and restore any bones or cartilage and ligaments that are diseased, degenerated, or deformed or injured. And I have seen this do amazing things. It will also help remove uric acid deposits in joints. Will also help with inflammation of joints. And in animals, sometimes you have to use this remotely, or I would use it on the root chakra. The root chakra is the one for bones, basically. Can also help rebuild to the original blueprint. Even if there's a deformity used over time, it could help.
Okay.
The next one would be
so anybody with knees out there, knee issues out there, just give that.
Oh, yes, knee issues. The knee issues, though, I do want to remind people, part of alternative healing is making changes in your life to not just take something and like a silver bullet and it's going to heal. You need to think about why is it there and how did it get there, and think about changing the diet. And in the early part of the book we talk about diet, eating fresh fruits and vegetables, getting enough exercise, because you can't get well doing the same thing that made you sick. So we need to remember that no matter what part of our body it is, we need to be not thinking of this as this is going to fix something and we go on eating a poor diet and not taking care of ourselves. So we need to put ourselves first and heal the glyphs help us heal ourselves. And alternative healings, we are the ones who are healing ourselves, and these are all, whatever we use are tools. And these are just tools to help us do that. Okay.
So a question coming in, is this good for our osteoporosis?
Yes, yes. But there again, diet, and exercise, whatever is permittable by your situation. But for osteoporosis, definitely. And there are so many causes that osteoporosis is really typical in our country, but in other countries where they have primitive people, they don't get things like that because we are eating a diet that is destroying our health. And so changing your diet is critical. And avoiding medication that is causing the osteoporosis. Okay. So next on to 21. Okay. Okay, this glyph can literally modify the DNA of the pituitary, thalamus, hypothalamus, and pineal to the original blueprint, remove the death hormone, and provide regeneration and detoxification of both. It will also harmonize and balance the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the biochemistry of the body. Now you need to understand the death hormone. If you believe that you are aging and going to die, then you will, because that is what you believe. You have to give up that belief which has been drilled into us and see yourself as no longer aging. That's very important to understand. Aging is a lie we have bought into. We have the power of God, and there's no reason that we need to age any further once we give up that belief. And part of that, again, is taking care of ourselves, to take care of our body and treat it like it can last like it will last forever. And this will also decalcify the pineal.
This is a powerful one then. Yes.
Right.
Let's
Absolutely.
remove that, that belief and use this and get some good testimonials back on how this works. And there's a question, will black and white copies work?
When I used to tell people no, just because I was just guessing that, but I've had several people tell me they do work. I've had numerous people now are writing, yeah, I tried them in black and white and they work. So from now on, what I do when I empower them is I will instruct that they will also work in black and white.
Okay.
This one, oh, I love this one. I hope most of you probably realize that vaccinations are all about money. So what I have programmed this to remove, because some people are still afraid, like, oh, well, you know, maybe some of them are needed, and I hear this all the time, but we need this and we need that, we need this. But what this will do is remove any vaccinations that are not for our highest good. So that's the key phrase there, that are not for our highest good. So just in case there's something out there that we really need, or they didn't create some disease for which we needed it, it will not remove something that we need. And when I went to Peru a couple of times, I did not get any vaccinations. I don't get vaccinations now. Of course, I had 2 years ago, and I had to for my children, and I realized that the government says we have to let our children go to school, and I would myself, if I had children, I'd be fighting that tooth and nail. But my question now is, if we need these, if they're necessary, why can't they be done with homeopathics? But anyway, I just wanted to throw that little 2 cents worth in there. But if there's something you need, it will not remove it.
Okay, that's good. I know that could have been a question, because as parents,
Right.
you know, going to school, the schools pretty much require it, or if you don't get your children vaccinated, it's an uphill battle. You have to, you know, really go and fight it. So that's interesting. So we can use these on our children who've had those vaccinations, and all that is good will remain.
Right, and what I would do if I had to take my child and get it vaccinated in order for it to go to school, well, the doctor is, well, this is taking place. I would be blessing that vaccination, and I would intend that anything toxic to the child is removed and transmuted into light. Remember your power.
Remember your power with the intention, and bless it. I love what you said there about blessing it. Yes, we don't fight it. That's very shamanistic.
Right.
Okay.
But we should do with prescription medication too.
All right.
Oh, and this is good. This is the one that lady used that was wrote that testimonial. I originally wrote this for a man who had a slipped disc in the back of his neck, and he was in such pain that he could not work. And he was a young man. He was in his early 20s. And I wrote this for him and emailed it to him, and he used it, and he said he felt like an angelic being was putting their hands back there on his neck, then after the next morning, the pain was gone and it did not return. Now, how long it will take for something, it depends upon the situation and also on how receptive the person is. If a person has a deformity in their spine, it could help resolve that deformity, but of course it would take time depending upon how willing they are to believe it can work. This can do amazing things for the spine.
Wonderful. All right.
This, I kind of bundled everything together right there because it all goes through the solar plexus, and it will remove parasites. Like there's some parts of the body like that are prone to parasites, the liver being one of them. Although I would use other detox glyphs that come in the first book for working on the liver. In these particular organs, they also can be prone to malignancies, and I did not program that into them, but I am going to resolve any malignancies. And one thing to understand is, even though you have that book in your hands, I can go in and change the master glyph and add something that I've been given, and all of the glyphs out there, it will be retroactive. So when I go in and change this one in particular to resolve any malignancies, it will affect all of the glyphs that you have out there. And I do want to do that for this one because pancreatic cancer seems to be very prevalent in our time at this time, although that is really because we overwork our pancreas by our diet.
So when you rework these, are they still, when you were to like re-encode them, anybody with this book then, it goes to those images that are already out there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And although the gallbladder is not pictured there, that is included. And I do have it, I put in the programming to resolve any issues with gallstones. Again, how effective it is depending upon the use of it and what your situation is like. But at one point, my ex-husband, the chiropractor, said he needed to do a gallbladder flush. And so I put some glyphs on him for detoxification, and this particular glyph, I put about 3 glyphs, the detox one from this book and that glyph, and then when she tested him again, she no longer got that he needed the gallbladder flush.
Isn't that amazing?
So it did help.
Yeah, you know, I can see this getting out to nurses by the bedside just as what the hey, you know, why not? And wow, that's really powerful. Okay, so there's a question coming in as well. When we are holding these glyphs in our hand, how long should we hold them for?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
When we hold the glyphs between our hands, how long do we hold them for?
If you're just using them in your hands, like if I were using, depends upon what glyph you're using, where you use it. One like this one we're looking at, I would cut that one out and tape it to my solar plexus and wear it all night. If I'm using one between my hands, and we'll talk about this when we get to the one for Candida, I would cut off the excess, have it right by the side of my bed, and I would sleep with it between my hands. Or one might just sit and put their hands on their book when they feel like it. There's really no certain length of time. It depends upon what the glyph is for. If it has a sensation, you could use it till the sensation stops. But I would say a lot of these are better off to just wear all night.
So more questions that come in on that. What if we were to Sharon, we have a high level of healers on this call today, I can tell by the caliber of questions. Instead of using the paper glyphs, Sharon asks, which can be uncomfortable, is it possible to intend that they holographically be sent to the areas needed?
If you believe in your power to do that, yes. You have to believe in your power to do that. They can be used remotely. You take the glyph and you can write a little statement on it telling it to go to, if you're sending it to you, a lot of Reiki healers use it on their clients. And I know there's a lot of healers who use it on their clients. They're different types. And you just tell that to go to that person. And sometimes if you choose, you could tell it to go what chakras you want them to go to, because the chakras are the entry point. And that's another thing the Syrians mentioned, is that the glyphs used on the chakras and picking the right chakra was important, because it would be more powerful if it's used for the chakras located where the problem is. Mm-hmm. But you can also use them remotely. And again, it depends upon your intention. It's just like when you pray for someone who's all the way around the world, the energy gets there. And how much depends upon what your sincerity and your belief in what the energy is going to do.
There were a couple questions that came in about how to use these remotely. Can you go into a few more specifics about how someone would send it remotely?
I would just state exactly what, remember the glyphs have intelligence, they have the intelligence of God. Mm-hmm. If you just say, for example, when I was trying to heal, or when I healed my little dog, she came home with her leg broken, and I took her to the vet, and he said that it would take, an orthopedic surgeon would be challenged to do anything with her foot because she had so many breaks in her digit and in the digits of her paw. And so I used the glyph remotely and told it to heal, just told it to heal the broken bones in her paw. And within 2 weeks, she was walking again. Now, that's pretty good for broken bones. Mm-hmm. So you just tell it what you want it to do. If you'll remember, all of you have the first book, there's one called Reaching Out, where you can use it to help a whole number of people. And the glyph will go through a series of different glyphs that it will use to remove emotional burdens from those people or that person. So you just find a quiet place where you can put these glyphs, and I have a long bookcase, and it is just covered with glyphs with people's names on them, and so that's all you need to do. Or sometimes you could use a picture, and I'm certain you could even just use it with the name in mind and not even write it on a piece of paper, and use your mind as the connection. But after a while, you may forget what you were, if you have a bunch of them, what you're doing with them. So the little piece of paper is helpful.
Mm. And then there's another question that we'll get to before moving on, that we can charge water with these as well, yes?
Yes, I have underneath, I have a great big crock where I bring my water up. I have a filter down, ionizing filter downstairs, and I bring it up in a gallon and put it in this big crock. And under that I have a whole page of the glyph from the first book with the hearts on it, the love glyph, and I have another one with the joy, and I put that under there. And I also have a number of things taped to the side of the crock. And just by way of it, I also have inside the crock, I have a set of crystal plutonic solids in a large crystal.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think I've covered all.
Yes, very cool, very interesting. And when we have those geometric shapes around us, it is creating an energy flow, would you say, from higher realms?
Oh, definitely. You cannot charge water too much. Water is the elixir of life, And the more love and energy you put into it and positive things, it's just great. You cannot do too much. Even playing music for it.
Well, we'll talk at the end of this program how we can use these glyphs to heal our planet, especially with what's going on with environmental issues, with Japan. We have the power, and we'll talk about that at the end of this program. And there's lots of questions coming in. Send your question along as well. We'll get to those at the end, but I want to move on and go on and look at some of these other glyphs. So next up, the adrenal glands and kidneys. Here we go.
Right. This one will remove any toxic matter from the adrenal glands and regenerate and heal the adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands, many of them are getting bad shape over the years. Fear is a real enemy of our adrenals. It will resolve any disease of the adrenals or deficiencies. And with all of these glyphs, it calls upon the violet flame to expedite and energize, and this particular one, energize the adrenals to achieve healing. And this is one of the few, I rarely experience any pain, and I've had an adrenal gland issue, but when I use this, I felt a considerable discomfort. I had to remove it and then use it again later because my adrenals were in such condition. So if you feel anything, that means it's doing something. If it makes any discomfort, take it off and use it again later. But keep using it until you don't feel anything anymore. And also with the kidneys, it will help dissolve kidney stones and transmute them into light and heal and detoxify the kidneys.
So when we listen to the first book was all on emotional cleansing and fear, what you've discussed, and this book is now more specific on systems of the body. And can you give a repertoire of how someone, or a process of how someone could go through these, maybe once a week, go through these different systems, or just use their intuition to pick what they need?
Yeah,
first?
I would say intuition. Again, first of all, you remember you do want to use those emotional healing glyphs. Fear is a big issue with the kidneys and the adrenals. They're just tough on both of them. And so I would use that if you know, sometimes you know when you have an issue, and I would use them repetitively. But I would use your intuition and ask for guidance. Anytime you ask, you will get your answer.
Okay, great. And the affirmations that go with each of these, can you explain how we can use those? Someone asks, should we use it 3 times? State it 3 times?
I have heard people feel very strongly that you should say everything 3 times. I've never felt that, and I don't do it. But do what you want. If you feel it's important for you to do it 3 times, fine. But myself, I feel like I don't know any reason I need to do it 3 times. For me, I just use it once. And if you feel there's something you would rather say than what's written there, then go ahead and say it.
And just to support those people who want to do it 3 times, Jean, you believe in this and you know it works. That's why you can get away with saying it 1 time, because you believe in that. But sometimes that first time, the subconscious isn't even listening. So
if it helps, if that helps you, then do it. If it helps you, if it feels right, do it.
Now this next glyph, if someone, my son, is going to the eye doctor for farsightedness, and I don't think he has an issue, so I'm going to start using this on him, and I'll let you know.
Okay. I first originally designed this for macular degeneration, and then I went in and added cataracts and glaucoma and also retina problems. I later, at a later point, added for nearsighted and farsightedness, but I was told that I'm nearsighted. that it would take some time for that to be effective. But it did do well. My ex-husband had cataracts and glaucoma, and we used it on him. And I want to say on this one, I was given guidance on different points to use it. I was told to put the glyphs not just on the eye, it depends upon what you're, but this is for glaucoma, on the back of the neck. If you'll see on the right where your skull adjoins to the neck there, you'll see, you'll feel some little depressions there. We're to put a glyph back there, and one under the arm, and then I was told on the outside of the arm, about halfway between the elbow and the shoulder. We never did that. I did do the one under the arm. But on myself, when I put the glyphs on the back of my neck, I could feel energy going up and down like a corridor on both sides of the spine. When he went to the doctor, they scheduled him for surgery for both his cataracts and glaucoma. And when he went to the surgeon's office, the surgeon said to him, he said, what are you doing here? You don't need surgery. And so he no longer has cataracts, he no longer had glaucoma, and is no longer taking any medication for the glaucoma. Now, he later on again started getting cataracts, and he started using the glyphs again. But there again, you need to remove the emotional things, and you also have to, cataracts are caused by a clouding of the lens from toxic matter building up. So diet is a big thing there. This one is interesting. My dog, I have a dog who's 14 or 15 years old, I'm not sure exactly, but he lost his hearing. It was kind of sad to see that, and so I used these glyphs on him, and it came back the next day. I couldn't believe that it worked that fast. I thought it would be a week or two, but the next day he could hear again, and it was absolutely amazing. So I so strongly encourage the use of this for hearing problems. But again, I think a lot is going to depend upon how long the person has had the hearing problem. If one has had one doctor contacted me and he had 95% of his hearing was gone, and he'd been like that for years, and was hoping it would resolve it, and I don't know if it did, because he was very elderly and I stopped hearing from him. I don't know what happened to him. But anyway, so a lot depends upon how long I think the situation has been going on. And also a lot of people say, oh, well, this is hereditary. It runs in my family. My grandmother had it, and so forth and so on. And when I hear that such and such is hereditary, and they tell me about their grandfather and their great-grandfather, you might have been your own great-grandfather or grandmother. And so then who are we going to blame? It often happens that you may come back lifetime after lifetime after lifetime with the same situation until you understand that you need to heal that situation. So that may be true in these hereditary hearing problems. This will remove any toxic matter from parts of the ear that are associated with hearing loss. They will repair any damaged or deformed or age-related degenerated parts, again, depending upon the severity. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me go on to the spleen. Okay, here's something I want to talk about with the spleen. Before you even start to do that, the spleen is another place that's very prone to parasites. So before you can heal your spleen, first of all, take that, you go back to the first book, and you take the glyphs for detoxification and parasites and put them underneath your rib cage on the left side. And start with that, and then go with this glyph. for healing of the spleen. And that will remove any toxic matter. And this is the first glyph that we'll talk about surgically removed parts. There will be many glyphs, quite a number of these glyphs in here, that I will say we can restore surgically removed parts. And this is one of them. There are cases where spleens have been surgically removed. Maybe they're an automobile accident and they've been ruptured, or maybe just through some medical idea that it would be helpful to do this. The idea that you cannot restore a part that is surgically removed has been drilled into us. And this, again, remember, you are divine and nothing is impossible. Surgically removed parts can be restored when you believe that it's true and that you can do this. So you have to let go of something that we have believed all our lives that cannot happen. Nothing is impossible. Remember that. You are divine and nothing is impossible. That's the thing we now need to drill into our mind. Okay?
Thank you for reminding us of that. There's questions coming in, everyone. We will get to those. I'm going to just let Jean move on. If we have time, we'll show you some of the emotional healing glyphs from book 1. Okay, here's the next.
Okay. Oh, I love this. This healed my own heart, and that's why I wrote a lot of these to begin with. I never intended to write a book, but I had mitral valve prolapse, and also I was having chest pains, and for some time I was having this. And I can remember one time when the pain was, my ex-husband and I, we were carpooling, we were driving home from work, and I was having really severe chest pains, and we were just going by the county hospital, and I said, I hate to do this to us, but we better pull in at the hospital because I'm having this pain in my chest. And so we went sat in the parking lot, and I thought, oh, I do not want to go in there. I do not want to go in there. And I started saying the Lord's Prayer, and the pain eased up a little bit. And I said, let's go home. But after that, within the past few years, I was having more incidents where I was getting severe chest pains, and I was told by a couple of psychics, and I wasn't about to have any, I don't go to doctors, and I wasn't going to have any invasive tests. And they said, you know, you have a problem with your heart. And I after about 3 of them told me that, I guess I had to believe that. And I would have chest pains that would be so bad that I would call my friends to tell them I may have to call 911 because I was worried about my dogs being alone. And so I wrote this glyph to heal my heart, and I put it on the back of my heart. And when I put them on, somebody said about the paper being uncomfortable, I wrapped them in a piece of cotton cloth. Anyway, I put that in. I never had chest pains again, although I used them. I was guided to use them for a couple of months. The chest pains have never come back, and I continued to use them remotely after 2 months, but I use them regularly on the back of my heart chakra for 2 months. Never have had a problem since. So this particular glyph will heal. And given time, it depends on how bad is the situation. If a person's had a heart attack and has part of their heart damaged, it certainly would take longer. For babies and small children, it could work very quickly. And I would love to see this. Sometimes children are born with problems right from the start. I would love to see this be able to be used on them. This also will remove the plaque from the heart and the arteries. It will transition to light any existing toxins and emotional blockages involved in the heart. And the heart problem, this is an emotional situation. It will help circulate. And then a doctor from Vermont asked me, could I include something on the verbiage? The heart is an electronic device and controls the electronic pulses within the body. And he said, could I add a statement to heal that, like for people who have irregular heartbeat and so forth. So I did. This is one where I just went back. I did this just a couple of months ago. I add another statement so it would help with people who have problems with their electronic heartbeat.
That's wonderful that a doctor is working and looking at this with you.
Right. He has heart problems, and that brought him into it.
So it worked for him. So now there's a question about, can you reuse the same glyph, and do you clear them in between use, or do you need to print out a new glyph?
Oh, I never even thought about clearing them. I don't feel they hold any. I use the same one if it's not damaged. Once it becomes damaged, discard it. Any type of damage where the image is obliterated in any way, if it gets a little tiny bit of water on it or anything, or tears, then discard it, and but otherwise you can use it again.
Okay. All right, now the lungs.
Okay, there's another good one. And when I first put this on the back of my heart, and that's the chakra that you would put it on for the lungs, I could feel, I just felt like an outlining of the whole lungs. I could just feel the energy going on there. And I don't have any particular problem with the lungs, but it will help with those people who do, those people who have some type of damage. Again, I couldn't say how much and for what. It depends upon the severity. Certainly it would help anything like emphysema, but how long, and it would just depend upon the person. And also it depends upon how much you're willing to put into it. The glyph has energy and instructions and the power behind it, but if we get it out of the way and just let it work, if we act like a dog, like everything's fine and whatever it is, or if we put our power of intention into it, that even gives it more energy, and believe and see it working in our mind.
That's wonderful, because Addie types
this will also clear up.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, this will clear up. There's often problems with bacteria and viruses and yeast and so on, and fungi in the lungs. This will remove that. Go ahead.
Good. And so those with bronchitis, that's good, okay. Addie types in that, what you just said there about the intention again in accelerating and even further empowering these glyphs. That's good, because she doesn't have a printer. So she just intends that these are placed on her body wherever and whenever needed. And they also put the glyphs on pictures with that intention to heal through the air. So she did that one.
Great.
Thank you, Addie.
Okay, this one here is for the female reproductive system. This is another one. If you've had something removed, is you have to give up the belief that it can't be restored if you want it to be restored. Also, it could bring back an ovulation. Here's one that I caution women who are in the age of their change, that be careful if you're counting on menopause to keep you from being pregnant, and you use this glyph. Be careful. That's all I'm saying, is just be aware. It can rebuild. It could, if you believe in the ability, it can repair parts of the female reproductive system that have been removed. It could also help people with fertility problems, depending upon the situation and whether you're letting go with your mind. If you feel if you've been diagnosed with a fertility problem, you have to let go of the belief that it's a problem. You have to see yourself as healed as well. But the idea that it can't be done, you have to let go of.
Okay, the beliefs that we hold. Mm-hmm.
Right. We hold a lot of beliefs that don't serve us, and this is another one, the adenoids. I was told one time in a channeling session, I said, was told that my skin would improve if I would regenerate my adenoids. And this is the first time I said, can this be done? And I was told, yes, it can be done. And I was told that the purpose of the adenoids is was involved in telling the body where to send the nutrition. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense. It's like a distribution signal telling the body where to send the nutrients. And so when it's removed, all of a sudden the body is totally thrown out of whack and it doesn't exactly know where to go. And any of you out there who have had your adenoids and tonsils removed, I'm willing to bet if you look at your hands, you have ridges in your fingernails. And this is because your body is not sure about where you're not getting all the nutrients from your food. And most likely because you've had your adrenal gland, your adenoid glands removed. I'm sorry if I've been saying adrenal, I'm sorry. The adenoids are very important, and so those of you who have children, when doctors say the child needs their adenoids and their tonsils out, and that's what happened to many of us years ago. They let us off to the hospital telling us, our parents, that this was for our best good, and remove the tonsils and adenoids. That is a very terrible mistake. And the reason that the adenoids and the tonsils get inflamed and enlarged is because of all the toxic matter in our food and drink. Young children, their tonsils and adenoids are very sensitive. And when they start drinking foods or water with chloride and fluoride and all the chemicals that are in our food, they affect the tonsils and adenoids, and they become enlarged and inflamed, and right away they want to take them out. That is a big mistake. It's better to clean up the diet. So use this one regularly in order to restore your adenoids, or even clean up the adenoids you have. Now, one of the reasons I wrote this glyph was for myself. Both my sister and I felt like we might have had a slight case of polio when we were children. And I have like ankle weakness and weakness in my leg muscles and so forth. And so I programmed it to restore any degenerated or injured or different, whatever might be causing any problems with our muscles. And I have to say, my muscles are in better shape now than they were years ago. And I really wish that these could be tried on some of these muscle-wasting diseases. But they certainly would be helpful in any muscle injury.
Okay. Does it matter if the glyphs are placed up or down on the body?
I use them facing the body, but it doesn't seem to matter because if I put them between my hands, I feel the energy going up both arms.
Yes, I can attest to this one. This works.
Yes, this one, this also should be able to, is programmed to be able to remove scar tissue. I would go ahead and place it over that area where it's a scar, or you could do it remotely, tell it where to go and test it out and see how it works. And I would like to do that myself, but I keep forgetting to do it. I have a small scar I would like to remove on my face, And I have so many other issues I was working with that I haven't tried this one yet. I'd like to...
Would you do it at night? Would you take the glyph and put it on your, what if it's near your eye?
No, mine is on my forehead, and I could easily put it on there at night. I just don't think of it because I have, like I say, I have other things I'm working on, but I need to do that because it's programmed to do it. If it's programmed to do it, it will. It may take time, but it will. It will work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have to try and see if it works on wrinkles.
Yeah, let's all try that. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. There's in the first book, there's a detoxification one. This is an advanced detoxification. This is made to remove, just like the other one, heavy metals, pesticides, and so forth. And it's also meant to remove, this would work also on kidney stones and gallstones. There are several things in the book where glyphs will work on the same thing. They will kind of duplicate their work, but that's okay. It can also heal and detoxify different problems with the bones. It can also help the circulatory system. This is another one that can remove plaque. And another one that you could put on the back of the neck, great one for the back of the neck, just like the other one. And this will clear out those arteries.
A question about some of these glyphs, we see the God code. Some of them don't have them. That doesn't make it different.
Yeah, I did put it on some, and then I just forgot on others, but once I empower them and got it in the book, it's too late. I can't, once it's in the book, I can no longer change the picture. I can change the verbiage, but I cannot change the picture. So I didn't worry about the fact that it was missing.
Mm-hmm.
This is for the male reproductive system. And it's kind of interesting because this one man, I was selling them individually before I had the book out, and there's a man in Singapore who bought one of these glyphs, and I dowsed. I thought, well, gee, this guy's in his 20s. He shouldn't need this glyph. And so I dowsed, and I got that, yes, he did need it. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Why would a man in his 20s need that? So when I spoke to him, he said that they had removed one of his testicles when for some illness that they felt that they needed to remove it for. And so when I got that, he could regrow that missing testicle. And so I wrote and I told him that, and he said, well, I'll try it and see if it works. And so I wrote back and I said, listen, you are divine and you can regenerate any part of your body. But first of all, you have to think you're not going to try. You don't try. You do. You believe that you can. You are part of God, and you can. And you have to tell yourself that, and you have to believe for it to work. And see, so he wrote back and he says, thank you for reminding me. He said, you're right. And so I'm not sure exactly how far he's gotten with that. But I think as we move into the dimensions, as we're moving forward, and from the third to the fourth and the fifth, these will come more rapidly and be much easier, is this regeneration. This will also help with male fertility problems. Okay. Which number is that?
There was a question about physically regenerating an organ. And you're saying, believe it.
You must believe it. Yes. If you don't believe it will work, it will not work for you. And that's the bottom line. You have to give up. We have to let go of all of these beliefs that are not serving us. Okay, this is the thymus. And the thymus shrinks as we get older a lot. For one reason is because of all the toxic matter in our food that attacks it. But I had an interesting experience with this one. The first night I put it, and your thymus is right about halfway. It's above your heart chakra, right on your chest there, about a few inches above your heart chakra. And so I put it there before I went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I thought, what is that smell? And it was just, I have to say the smell was peculiar. It was neither terrible or pleasant. It was just strange. And I wandered around the house looking for whatever that smell was. And then and this is my thought, is it wasn't really a smell, but sometimes we can have an idea of a smell, if that makes any sense. Like if you ever smelled something and later you remember that smell. And I believe it was toxic matter that was being discharged or transitioned from my thymus. That's all I could account for, is what caused that. But it was a really strange incident. But I encourage everyone to go ahead and use all of these glyphs that will help any glands or organs, regardless of whether you think you need it or not. And I feel like everybody needs to help out their thymus, because we've probably all been eating food and stuff and ingesting one way or another through the air or what is toxic matter. And all our organs and glands are so sensitive to absorbing some of those toxins. So I think we need to clean them all out. And the thymus is your gateway to the universe. So we really want to take care of our thymus and get it shaped up. That's what the gate is, the gate down there. Okay, this next one is for the thyroid gland. There are many incidents where doctors, for some reason, have removed our thyroid gland, and this is another one. It can help restore the surgically removed thyroid gland, or just heal the thyroid gland and put it into balance. The thyroid is another very sensitive gland that is easily set off balance by matters in our food and also by stress. Stress is one that will really hit your thyroid gland. Having an underactive or an overactive thyroid gland is so common. And I had a friend who had an overactive thyroid gland, and what the doctor suggested was removing it, and I thought, do not let them remove any of your body parts unless they are so badly diseased it's a matter of life and death. That's my opinion. There's more ways to heal a thyroid, overactive thyroid, than to remove it. So it can be restored, but this will help clean it up. But you'll need to work on other things, balancing your other things to restore that. Okay, resolve the nerve damage. Okay, hold on just 1 minute. That's number 57. I'm going to, okay, give me just a second here.
Okay.
Okay, because I was guided to write this one. And this is to correct dysfunction of neurons in synovial membrane. This is to resolve tendency to jerking leg by restoring a smooth synapse. Repair tendons that have been damaged. To correct any nutritional deficiencies. Yes, this was given to me probably by a certain person. And that was exactly the words that I was given, to correct dysfunction of neurons in synovial membrane. So that's what it is. And it works. Got a little image on my screen. Is that okay? There we go.
Yeah, that's mine. Sorry.
Okay. Etheric implants. Okay, now let me explain about the etheric implants. These are different than attached entities. Sometimes we can have an implant that cannot be seen, we know nothing about it, in order to prevent us from moving forward. It is to extract and transition any implant or device, curse, negative intention from the body, that is designed to control or disempower, harm or limit, that is not there for the highest good. Now, sometimes you may have an implant that is there to assist you and guide you in your work. This will not affect that. It will only remove implants that are there to suppress you. And when I used that, I could feel it doing something. I found it very interesting. And the implant was somewhere in my head.
And where do you think they come from? Thought forms?
No, well, no, I think they come from the dark energies. I don't know about thought forms. I think they, like, for example, I came here to do a job, and I'm sure there are many who do not want me to do this. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, perhaps they can be coming in if we lower our guard. I don't know. And how long have we had them? Have we had them for generations? I couldn't tell you that.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, I love this one too. Again, I wrote this years ago for a friend of mine who had uterine cancer, and before she even knew that I wrote it, or she went and had a hysterectomy, and so she never saw it or never even knew that it was designed. So I was kind of sat on the shelf for a while, and that's why this one doesn't have any of the Hebrew lettering. But I wanted someone to test it on. So as time went by, I dowsed, and I was told to use it on myself, and I have always had digestive issues. And so I used it on my solar plexus, and I felt tremendous activity going on in my stomach and in the whole area there. And I used it for days, and I asked later on, did I have some type of malignancy? And I was told, well, that's what you wanted, isn't it? And I said, well, I didn't mean me. And so then I was given a friend who had the first book, and he had prostate cancer, and he was at stage 4, and no, stage 3, I think. And it did heal him. He was at the point he could no longer work and was not functioning well. And now he's back. He's perfectly normal, and he's out back working and leading a normal life. So it has been very effective, and I had another incident where I noticed a lump in my breast. It was on the left side, on the top side of my breast, and I was guided to use that glyph. And what I did was I cut off about 4 of them in a row, and I put that in a bra which I wore at night, and I felt it working on my breast. And when you feel something, it is doing something. The energy went down and under my arm, and again I felt something happening. I did that every day for a week or 2, and the feeling went away and the lump disappeared. And so what I feel that women should do who have the book is go ahead and put in a block of 4 inside a bra and wear at night, just as what I will call general housekeeping measure. And the same thing on the sacral chakra. If there's the men out there, prostate cancer has become so common now. Ovarian cancer is more rare, but it's still, you've got nothing to lose. That's the way it is. If you use a glyph and it doesn't do anything because you haven't got any use, it doesn't need to, then you've got nothing lost there. But certainly it's a good idea for, like I call, housekeeping measure. But what I tell people in the book, this glyph is for the individual who has this book to use for themselves. It is not for your dying grandfather who's got 1 foot in the grave and his cemetery plot picked out. I have people contact me wanting a glyph for cancer for someone who's been through chemo and radiation, and one woman whose husband had like 11 brain tumors and had been series of radiation. And I think it's best when a person is working on their own. I don't say you can't. I mean, do whatever you want with it, and there's no such thing as impossible, like I said, but it's really designed for people to work on themselves. Okay. Sometimes we just need to let people go.
Well, you answered someone's question on that. Thank you. Now, what about with this, if is it supposed to be, there's a question coming in, is this the sacral or the, which chakra area for prostate cancer would you say, the sacral or the
sacral? Sacral.
Okay. And sacral that's chakra. Like, was that on his lower back?
No, that's on the front, right? Right about where the pubic hair stops, right in that area. If you're sensitive to heat and you have your clothing on, you can run your hand over, and where your chakras are, there will be a little warmth there, and that will be the spot. Or if you just want to be sure you cover it, take a block of 4 of them or so just to make sure you get the right spot.
Okay. And someone else says, I have fatty tissue. Can this be used for that?
Fatty tissue. I have not programmed that in for that reason, no. I mean, I intend it to work. Yeah, put your intention into it. Tell it what you want it to do. And I've heard of that being effective, where somebody has taken a glyph that I have written and programmed for a certain thing, and they've taken it and told it to do something else, and it worked. So there's the sky's the limit here. Just
believe,
be creative.
Yes. Believe and intend. Yes. And this,
right.
Okay. Expansion of consciousness.
Oh, that is glorious. That's an glorious one. That particular glyph has about 2.5 pages of programming. What that will do is it will literally call in a group of light beings to work with the individual, and it will work on it's putting in crystal energies and homeopathic energies and a multitude of things in order to elevate the consciousness of this being. And this is a nice one to work with other people. If you know somebody that you would like to, I would start with the other book, where the one that's called Reaching Out, and work with them first to remove all the negative energies from them. And then you can use the expansion of consciousness. And again, you have nothing to lose. You cannot overcome somebody's free will if you're using it with someone else. Of course, if you're using it with yourself, that's fine. I found, though, that people using it for themselves, they've already got their consciousness expanded as far as, you know, to a certain point. But it's great either way, on using it on yourself or using it somewhere else. And I had this done in stained glass in a window in the chapel I have built on my land here. It turned out quite well. It's a powerful glyph. Powerful.
How many different glyphs can be used at the same time, asks Stephen.
I would start out with 1 or 2, and that's one of the things that the Syrians pointed out, is to just use a couple at a time. But I don't know if I totally agree with them. I think once you're used to using them, if I just use 2 at a time, I've got so many things that I'm trying to work on at one time that I go ahead and I use 3 or 4 or 5, but don't start with too many too fast. People have told me they would take right away, they're impatient and they want to use a whole bunch of them. And one man said he took 5 and put them on the back of his heart chakra, and the next morning when he got up, he almost fell over. Because you are working with energy, and if you're trying to move too much energy too fast, it could make you dizzy or woozy, and I certainly wouldn't use these when you're going to have to get up and drive to work the next morning. Don't overdo them. If you overdo them, nothing bad will happen. But one night when I first started with this, I was putting them all over my ex-husband. And one night he went to the movies, and when he came back, he said he was afraid he couldn't get out of the car. So you need to be careful with these when you're starting out. But myself, I think after you get used to them, you could use a few more than a couple of them.
And that's so cute. You said your ex-husband. Was that before you were exes? And you've actually speak to how you use these glyphs to heal that relationship.
Well, yes, I did. Some people are just not meant to be together after a while. We were and we weren't. We are here to work together. But just because you're here to work with someone doesn't mean you can necessarily live with them very well. And so at a certain point, it was just time for us not to be living together anymore. And I have to say, there is no such thing as a divorce that's not painful. Even though it was in the best interest, it was very painful. And I took about 5 different glyphs. I took one for fear, for heartache, for sadness, and for a feel of abandonment or whatever it was. Anyway, I stacked them all together and I put them on my heart chakra, and it really helped. It was amazing. It was just wonderful how it helped. But also resentment. I took the fear for resentment, and so I had no hard feelings about anything, and we still work together. We recognize that we are here together for a purpose in this world. And he lives in Peru now, and I design the glyphs, and I scan them and send them to him, and he catalogs them and puts them in what we call the glyph gallery and sends them back to me in the format in which you see them. So we're still working together, and every time somebody buys a book, I send him the name and address, and he puts it into the address file and so forth. So we do work together all the time.
Yeah, that's a beautiful example for all of us to follow, and a nice remembrance of how we can use these to really heal all those emotional aspects before they get to this physical level. So wonderful.
This is a good one to use on an ex-spouse and even yourself. If for some people, they are very angry and they say, well, you don't know what this person did to me. Mm-hmm. No, you're doing it to yourself now. Everything that happens to you in your life is for a reason. And it took that to get where you are now. And if you have issues with your ex-spouse, then you need to work on your issues. And it wouldn't hurt to put some glyphs, his name or her name, on some glyphs in order to help out your and his feelings to resolve them. It would be so good if we could get rid of this animosity between exes and in-laws and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Here's another question from Carol. I believe all things are possible, but also think I may have very deep beliefs that I can't seem to reach. Can you speak to this?
And it would not be easy to do without knowing what the beliefs are, but they're, yes, we have this belief that we, let's say levitation, okay? We know we should be able to levitate, and I would love to go out and levitate some rocks around in my garden. And do I believe I can? I believe I should be able to do it. Am I doing it? No, I'm not there yet. And it comes the same is true of walking on water. I'm not going to go out and step on my pond and find out whether I can walk on water. And yet we know that this is part of levitation too. So yes, that's true. We should have the ability to defy gravity. We should have the ability to pick up a hot coal and have it not burn us. Or we have that ability, but do we believe it? Until we can do it, we don't know. So I can understand what she's saying. She's right. Unless we let go of some of these beliefs that this is going to burn us. And I have no advice for that, except as we keep moving forward and trying to let go. Again, this is another one with aging. I want to give up this belief in aging, and I insist I give up belief in aging. Mm-hmm. And yet, I'll see a man my age, and I think, oh, well, he looks interesting. And I thought, wait a minute, if I think I'm younger, then I don't need one that old. So, yeah, that's true. We have to just think about it, is what is the belief, and why can't we let it go, and what will happen if we did see ourselves in our mind if we did let this belief go, what would this do for us? Where would we be? See ourselves as having given up this belief. It's my only thought on that.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, moving on. We've got a few more left here.
This is interesting. The marijuana. This is not a very good image. I'm not sure who I got it from or whether I got it from myself. But certainly smoking marijuana is never what I meant, and it's not the way to use it. The way medical marijuana should be used. Like, I find this one very useful if I take it's very good for IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. If you cut out the excess on a page and just place it over your abdomen, it can be very helpful for that. Also, it helps you sleep at night. But I have learned since I put out the book that one of the best ways of using marijuana is to take the plant, the live plant, and juice it. It's supposed to be terrific. I don't remember what for, but I found this very interesting. But the glyph itself, it certainly can be very relaxing and help, like I said, irritable bowel syndrome. It's very effective.
Okay.
This is good to take a couple of these and put them on your cell phones and your cordless phones. Your cordless phones are almost as bad as your cell phones. And also your, if you have an iPad, iPads are just as bad as cell phones. And we love our tools, and we're not about to give them up, but they're not really, they're very harmful to us. So use them wherever you can. I put them on, even one on the underside of lamps and different things at electrical devices. Electricity ages us. The type of electricity that we have is not really very good for us, but we're not about to run out and live in a tent outside. So we just have to do the best we can and use whatever we can to protect ourselves. And I'm also concerned about this this thing what they're talking about on our devices outside for the electric meter. I'm thinking I'm going to add that to the program, that we could maybe put it in a piece of plastic or some tape and put it out on our electric meters to prevent any energies that are coming from the electric meter that are putting out signals. I think that would be a good idea. Wouldn't hurt to put one on your fuse box also. And I've got a whole page of them. I've got a page of them on top of my router for my network. And I'll take the whole page of one and I put it in a document protector, and when I'm using my iPad, I put that underneath to protect myself from the energies of the iPad.
Interesting. And people are asking, can we laminate these?
Definitely. That's a good one to laminate. When it comes to laminating the others, it depends upon what kind of lamination. The real heavy stuff that it'd be uncomfortable to use as a glyph you're putting on your skin. The softer lamination might not be a bad idea. Also, what I've done is to take some of this transparent packing tape and put them inside a piece of transparent packing tape. I've heard of other people putting them in little plastic baggies. I kind of like to use mine open and just put the cloth around them. I don't know why I don't like this. Just like when my crystals, I don't like putting my crystals in plastic bags.
Okay, good.
I feel like they're alive. They are alive.
Yeah, they want to breathe and circulate the energies. Yes. Okay, can this work for cavities as well?
Not this one is not programmed. I do have one that I wrote years ago for cavities, and I wrote it for a lot of different things and for dental issues, and I thought, oh, this can't possibly work. But then when I had some pain under my, I have a crowns, and I had pain under the crown, and I was sure I had a cavity because it was continuing for some time, and I used that other glyph, and the pain stopped. So yeah, I have a glyph for cavities, but I don't have it out yet. It will be out in the next book. I could program it in there. That's a good idea. I'm glad they brought that up, because I could program that in there, and I will do that. I will do that, is program this into also helping with cavities, because it that's a great idea. And thank you for whoever said that.
Mm. And also, you know, gingivitis and all dental.
Right, I can put that into there. The one thing about this, it's important to know with an abscess tooth, this will be very effective at killing the bacteria that's causing the pain and the swelling. Mm. It will work at that very effectively. However, the reason the tooth is abscessed is because part of the root is probably dying. That is almost always the case. The reason the part of the root is dying is because there is another part of the body. It's all connected, and every tooth has some other organ that's associated with, and probably even more than they know about. So it is programmed to work on healing that root, but also seeking out the organ or gland that's associated with it in healing that as well. How effective that is going to depend upon what I would suggest if somebody uses this for an abscess tooth. Go ahead and find on the internet, there will be like it's called dental chart or something to that effect that will tell you all of the teeth and the organ associated with it. It's very easy to find on the internet. And then think about that. If it's the spleen, then you need to think about cleaning up your spleen. Again, doing the detox and the parasite cleanse on that organ that's associated with the diseased tooth, because you will not really be able to heal that diseased tooth until you heal the organ associated with it. If it's something like your colon, you may end up being beneficial to have a series of colonics or something to clean out your colon and work with that. So you're going to have to do a little homework on finding out what is connected to this diseased tooth.
Okay.
I don't recommend root canals, but everybody's do their own thing.
Now,
okay.
Adenoids, how are adenoids different than tonsils?
Okay, well now the tonsils, those of you who still have them, you just open your mouth and you can see them in the tonsils are part of your immune system. And as I said, the adenoids are for nutritional balance. The tonsils are part of protecting us against all the disease organisms that we are exposed to. And the adenoids are where the ones we cannot see them, like a small gland in the cavities of our throat or nasal passages. In the again, this is another one, and that was the first one I designed because I could see them. And so I wanted to regrow my tonsils, so I created that, and I was guided to include that it would use the bone marrow and brain stems. And when I first used it, I could feel energy running all over my body, that the glyph was telling my body what to do. After a period of time, my chiropractor tested me and with dowsing, and she said, of course, there's two sides there. One side was 8% restored, and another side was 13%. And I could not see anything. And I'm still working on that one. These take some time, and again, your belief system is involved here. And you have to let go of that last bit of belief that it's not going to work. It's not, is it going to work? It it is going to work. You've got to get that mindset. It is going to work. Can it be done? Yes. How long it takes, that's up to you.
Wow. And so we get a question here. How about these glyphs? Oh, sorry. Go ahead first.
Go ahead. No, that's fine.
Okay. Well, sometimes these glyphs, they get creased, damaged, as you mentioned, when they tear and get wet, you know, throw them away. But someone asks, besides laminating them, can you have the glyphs printed on static vinyl? It would make it very versatile in use. That's like a banner material.
It would be nice if they could be printed on something. Now, you could print them on a piece of paper. You can buy paper that is waterproof type thing. It's a little more costly, but it would be worth it. You can buy it through the internet, and it would really be worth it. And I got one package of paper when I got one printer. That was just wonderful. It was amazing how well it worked, and I could never buy it again. It was put out by HP, but when I looked on the internet, I found there are other places that do sell a paper, and it's waterproof, that once it will last much longer. It's used for making maps and things. And that would really be ideal. But remember, well, you've got the e-book. You can print these. You can get this Avery t-shirt material. You can go to the office supply store and you can get some material where you can print them out onto cloth. And I have found that really nice for glyphs that you use a lot, like the detoxing glyph. And so you could print them out on cloth and put them under your rib cage, and it's not like the paper. It really is much more comfortable. So I would really recommend that for something that you want to use a lot. Say it makes a little bit more of an effort, but I would not put them on a t-shirt, because you're going to want to launder the t-shirt, and they do not hold up well. This material that the glyphs are printed out with do not hold up that well. You'll want to put it on something that you don't want to launder all the time.
Interesting. I can see it now. A different detox t-shirt each night, or a good night's sleep.
Right.
Healing t-shirts, healing clothing. Fascinating.
Well, now, I had that. I created that. I was asked if I could create a way to help the AIDS people in Africa.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was given a glyph to use, and I had it imprinted on the front of the t-shirt over the solar plexus, and on the back of the t-shirt over the heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And now that was imprinted by a t-shirt place, and that will stand up to laundry. That will go through many, many launderings without being a problem. And I think that's great if you have a serious illness, a viral illness that takes time. And the important thing is, I would have it on a t-shirt for a couple of them, and as soon as you finish your shower, put on another t-shirt and wash the other one, and just keep that one on you for a couple of weeks, or at least 10 days.
Wow. Healing clothing.
Right.
Okay, good. All right, so we have a few more left here.
Oh, I love this. This is a great one. This is for Candida. I made this for Candida, but I've also had people tell me they used it in their garden for fungus and mold on their plants. And it's also for intestinal support, and it works great for Candida. And if you have what we'll call systemic Candida, Candida can get all over the body. And if you get it up in the brain, it does go up in the brain. And when I used this, I cut out the whole page. I cut the excess paper off. And I had it right next to my bed at night. And so when I woke up, I put it between my hands, and I kind of laid on my side and kind of, now I lay me down to thing with my hands under my face. And I could feel the energy going up my arms and all the way up into my brain. And when it was doing this, it gave me a headache, but the headache left as soon as I let go of the glyph. So the Candida was up in my brain, and this was resolving, and it also resolves the die-off. One thing that other types of Candida medications do is you have a certain amount of die-off. This will transition the die-off. It's so powerful, and I've had such people give me such positive feedback on using it. It also helps in resolving other intestinal issues, and this is another one that's good for irritable bowel syndrome. And this is good for temporary relief of allergies, although I have it programmed that it will act as a desensitization. And this really has helped me because I've had a lot of hay fever type things, and I'm allergic to house dust, which is always there. And this is really helpful to me. I put one on my solar plexus. Sometimes if you really have a bad attack, I'll put one on 2 different places. And it really gives me a lot of relief. And then after a while, I don't seem to need it anymore. And then if I have a little situation where it's bothering me, I just put it on, and then that helps, and then I don't need it for a while. And what's interesting things is many of these glyphs will be given, you'll have multiple uses. I was given this symbol to use, and several of us were told to take this symbol to Sedona, and we opened up a vortex in a state park in Sedona. This is what we were told to do. And we were all just like, I mean, it's like, well, you know, okay. And I wasn't sure what was going on, but we did it, and they got the guidance. There were 4 of us women. We went to Sedona and opened up a vortex with this glyph. So if you have a glyph, and you feel like you're being told to use it for something different than what it seems to be, go ahead and do it. The worst that can happen is nothing. We've gotten a couple of times where we were told to do something with the glyph that had nothing to do with what I wrote it for.
Very interesting. Does the allergy glyph work with food sensitivity?
I did not find that so. I have a sensitivity to different type of nuts, and it didn't seem to make much difference there. I had more luck using the other one for Candida, for the food sensitivity. And well, when I say sensitivity, it was for digestive sensitivity.
And when you were talking about the Candida one, will that work for toenail fungus?
Yes, it should work for toenail fungus. However, I would say for toenail fungus, what I found really helpful is oregano oil. Put that on 2 or 3 times a day. But if you have a toenail fungus, you have a body that is too acid, and you need to alkalize your body. You need to have more fresh fruits and vegetables.
Okay. All right, thank you. There's more questions we'll get to later. Let's just finish these last few.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is great. Now, any of you are really young, you may not need this, but I've never drunk enough water for many years, and so those of us who have not been drinking enough water, our lymphatic system can tend to be a bit clogged or congealed. And when you put this between your hands, the feeling was so intense. This is very intense. If you put it under your feet, it may keep you awake at night while it's working. But it does transition congealed or hardened lymph in your system. It does an amazing job, just almost like startling. All right. All right, neurological problems. This is another one I was guided to. I was given the symbol, and I wasn't sure who was supposed to be used for, but there must be somebody out there who's getting help from this. I would love to see how some of these glyphs would work with Parkinson's, but I think it would be interesting. It will resolve many different types of neurological problems and transition matter that encumbers the nervous system and repair damaged or missing chromosome markers. Also balance the endocrine system and resolve any chemical imbalance. It would be interesting to see what some of these glyphs could do for autistic children. Also, it'd be interesting to see what they do for tremors, the people that get tremors.
And what would you say for Alzheimer's? Is this different?
Alzheimer's, I think you would use a number of the glyphs. I think you would start with detoxifying. There's talk about aluminum in the brain. So certainly I would go ahead. There are many things that could help Alzheimer's, a surprising number of things, starting with detoxifying and also with a lot of the B vitamins. And then now they're talking about the use of coconut oil as being helpful to it. And I've created a new glyph that will be out in the second book. I have a couple I know, her husband had Alzheimer's, and one of the tests for Alzheimer's is, they say it's a very simple elementary test, is ask the person to draw a clock on the quarter hour. And this person asked her husband to draw a clock, and she said he had numbers all over the page. It didn't even look like a clock. So she purchased an old Edgar Cayce remedy called the wet cell battery. And they used that for several months, and she noticed improvement. She had him try the clock thing, and this time it looked something like a clock. After using it for several more months, he drew a perfect clock, and everybody noticed the difference, that he had improved. Well, the wet cell battery is a very cumbersome thing. And I just looked at it when they were showing it to me, and I was there, and I felt that man was doing great. And I thought, oh my goodness, I wouldn't want to try to figure this out. But I was told I could write a glyph that could emulate a wet cell battery, which I did. And so it is going to be in my next book. And will it work for Alzheimer's? All I can see is we'll just have to have people try it out and see.
And you mentioned coconut oil.
Yes, that's on the internet. If you just type in Alzheimer's and coconut oil, you'll get some information on that. So the way I feel is, well, anything's worth a try. Definitely, I feel there's hope for Alzheimer's.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Now, this one I got from one of Barbara Marciniak's books. One of the last one, I think, could be something like Path to Enlightenment or something, where the Pleiadians were saying how powerful the checkerboard was. And so I asked about this. I thought, well, that's interesting. What is this thing about the checkerboard? And so I was told that it could be very powerful in helping our spiritual elevation. So I put it into a glyph. And what it does is it removes blocks and imprint directives that enhance the ability to communicate with all the influences that are in service to the light and the divine plan. It removes, here's another one that will remove implants that prevent course correction and impede progress. And this is conditional on the will of the user. The user must be willing to release attraction to outside influences of dark directives. That means you have to be really working on your path. You have to be one who's understanding that the goal is unconditional love and giving up all these things that are in the opposite of unconditional love, is giving up the gossip or the resentments and all these other negative influences, and just have your focus on moving forward in the light.
That's an interesting one with the light and the dark.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
In her book, I think it's Path to Enlightenment, it explains a lot about the numbers and the meaning to them.
Okay, thanks. And here's the last one.
The energy balls, right. These are 2 balls of energy that send the energy to the lower dantian, and that is an energy system right below our navel, and another one which they call a snow on the mountain, or snow mountain. And these are important energy places, and then that one is on your back, on the lower part of your back. Important energy systems involved in our immune system. And if you use this glyph, if you're sensitive to energy, you will feel it energizing these areas. Very important part of the immune system. Also helps in opening your message center so that you could get messages.
Okay. Well, now there's questions. When's your next book coming out?
I'm gonna really work hard and get it out moving soon. And what I might do, and what we might do, is Loren, is even have a webinar with it as a draft once we get, because it takes time to get a printed book out, and I may just do it as an ebook because there's a lot of important glyphs that people are waiting for to get. The ones for Alzheimer's and for the ones for diabetes and so forth.
And also, what about brain damage?
That one will be in the next book too.
Okay. And someone asks, fibromyalgia. Any glyph for this?
I would have to, well, first of all, this is an illness that can be resolved just by changing diet and eating a lot of, cleaning up your diet, eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and getting some exercise. And I think I would start with that. Sometimes we're looking for a silver bullet. And the answer is just making the changes in our life that we need to do. And surely the glyph for neurological problems would be helpful there. There would probably be several glyphs that could be helpful. But remember, with the old saying, nothing in my life will change until I do. Remember that saying, because in order to resolve serious illness, you have to be willing to work on yourself. Remember, you are divine. You are a temple of God, and you want to take care of that body. Your body is the most powerful, prized possession that you have. You want to treat it right. You want to feed it the right food. You want to take care of it and love it. Give up any addictions that can be harming it. And I gave up smoking. I don't bother with alcohol except on not even rare occasions. If I had one drink a year, and the only addiction I have is chocolate.
And you introduced a lot of people to the word kombucha. That's very...
Yes, right. I do not get sick. I don't. First of all, that's another belief that you need to let go of, that getting sick is normal, and somebody said, oh, well, I just got this cold, but I needed a good cleaning out. You do not need a cold to clean out anything. There's nothing in your body that needs cleaning out that has to do with colds and flus. The only thing that needs cleaning out is your liver, or your kidney, or any parasites, and that has nothing to do with colds and flus. Being sick is not normal. Health is normal. Give up the belief that you are subject to these viruses and germs. If you believe that you can catch all these viruses and germs that from other people, you turn yourself into a walking culture medium. Give up being a culture medium and see yourself as divine and immune. As soon as you believe and work on believing and talk to your body, tell your body, every cell in your body has ears and it will listen to you. You are the orchestra conductor, and your body is the orchestra, and it will play what tune you tell it to play. So give up that idea that you have to get sick. And what helped me get over this idea that a sore throat and all this stuff is somebody introduced me to kombucha, and now I really enjoy it. It's a cultured a tea. It's made out of a tea, and you can type that name in and get it anywhere. Recipes for it, although I use half the sugar that the recipes. You use sugar in it because it is a culture that grows on the sugar. But I use it as I enjoy it now, and I feel it's a very healthful beverage. And if you read more about it, you'll see it's helpful for a lot of things. But I do not ever get sick. I have not had a cold or flu. I can't even remember. I don't even think about such things. And I see people who have a copy of the book and they're sneezing and wheezing, and I think, oh, good grief, why aren't you using your glyphs?
Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. Okay, lots of questions that we'll get to. Thank you, everyone. Let's see. Some are, okay. Let's see. Which glyphs would you use for dry skin, lip eczema, and would you just hold it in your hands?
Dry skin, okay, to start with, make sure you're drinking enough water. Plan your day for, and if you are drinking coffee and soda pop, just zero that out, because if you're drinking anything that's a diuretic, then you need to counterbalance it with more water. Iced tea is not a good idea if you've got dry skin. So you start with that. Then, again, back to the diet, fresh fruits and vegetables. Your skin shows what you've been eating. Your skin, whatever your condition of your skin, is going to be reflected in the way you eat and the way you take care of your body. Now, it's certainly normal in the wintertime with dry heat, especially if you're the type of let's say you're of Scandinavian or European ancestry, it's not unusual to have dry skin. And I don't know that there's a glyph that's going to help that. Now, eczema, certainly the glyph can help eczema, but it is my belief, I think I had eczema once. I know I had eczema once, and it was a small patch, and what I used on that was oil of oregano. It was extremely painful, so it might not be beneficial might not be advisable in a large area, but it was interesting that it healed up. And that made me wonder if eczema is not some type of pathogen, because oil of oregano is a powerful antibiotic type thing. So that was very interesting, and I wouldn't hesitate to try a little spot of it, or you might even cut the oil of oregano with another carrier oil and see if that might help. But the glyph should help. But yeah, I would use, in addition, Lauren said she used the skin glyph, but I would go ahead and use the glyphs for virus and bacteria. You've got nothing to use by putting both of them on there. Can't do any harm.
Maybe you'll lose some warts. Okay. Now, let's see. There are some questions coming in. How about, can you, okay, I'm going to try to roll a couple in one. Do you work with private clients, and can you create glyphs for those, like custom glyphs? And also, do you take glyph requests?
Several people have sent me ideas, and some of them were already covered with glyphs that they have. And one of the things I encourage people to do is read the book, read the whole book, including the part in the front that talks about diet and exercise and everything, and take it to heart, because a lot of the things that people want, they already have. It's already in the book, or they could be resolved with diet and exercise. Will I work with individuals? There's times when, like when I heard about the Alzheimer's, and I went and used this wet cell battery idea. I'm always interested in communicating with people if they have ideas, as long as they look first. Sometimes people ask questions first and then they read the book. I would rather you read the book and think about it and ask for some guidance, then ask. And I'm glad to try to help somebody, because there are conditions, like somebody asked me about sleep apnea. Well, it's the first time I thought about it, because it has never affected me. But on the other hand, one of the things with sleep apnea is oftentimes it's being overweight. So if a person has a problem that is caused by the fact that they're 50 or 100 pounds overweight, or that's part of the issue, then they need to work on some of that themselves. But I'm always happy to communicate with people. I'd love to hear from them. And if they have some idea that hasn't come to me yet, I'm always interested in knowing about it. But I am really like to hear about is success stories. And one thing we want to mention too, Christmas is coming, and a good idea as a really interesting and great Christmas present is giving a friend or a loved one who would like to move forward in their life a set of the books. That would be a powerful present to someone who's open to trying something new. I wanted to mention that before I forget, because these books can be so helpful, and they make such a unique and unusual present. Especially if you're here in the United States, you could buy them through my website, or you can buy them from Amazon. And the first book is available for Amazon all over the world. And if you can only afford one book, get the first one. Get the other one, Unlocking the Power of Glyphs. They make a wonderful Christmas present. I just wanted to mention that.
Great. Those are hard copy. Is it paperback?
Right, the printed, the paperback. Yes, both of these come in paperback. Yes. And also, I've had people who contacted me wanting to know if they could workshop the Glyphs, the Glyph book. And I never had thought about it, but I went ahead and I sent them a box of books, and they were very successful as far as workshops. I never have done a workshop myself, and some people love doing them, and they do real well, and they worked out very well. I just wanted to mention that if anybody's interested, to contact me.
Yeah, I can see that in the nursing, I mean, starting there, that's just a really great place. Anybody in the healing practices, yeah, get those out.
Right.
Okay.
Any more questions we want to cover?
There's a lot. I want to make sure that I get to all of them. There's some that have a request. What would be the best for a creaky jaw? One writes in that she feels like her jaw might lock.
I would go ahead with that one for bones. There's one in each book. In this book, the one number 20 for bones, would try that. And number 73 in this first book, they have both books. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's all I can. Yeah, I would use those. Yeah, I would use number 20 and see how that goes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then the Glyphs were, oh, sorry.
Just ask for guidance.
That's a nice point to remember. We always have to ask, yes. Mm-hmm. The Glyphs for colds and flu, those are in book 1, yes.
Yes, number 10. Number 10.
Now, you had mentioned to cut off the excess paper. Do you mean to cut out a circle around the glyph?
No, it depends. You cut a circle around the glyph if you're using one. If you're going to use a whole page, like I would use a whole page for the marijuana one and put it over my abdomen, I just mean I cut out the excess paper around all the 16 glyphs.
Okay. During the use of one of the glyphs, this listener, Antoinette, received a picture or drawing in her mind's eye, and she says, I did not see a glyph that resembled that. What would be your suggestion on how to work with that information? Okay, so Do you understand? So she got a picture in her mind.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see that. Would I draw it and send it to me and see what, and ask, what is this for and what does he want it to do? Just get some, I've heard people say that before, and that they got an idea for a glyph. And I said, go ahead and draw it and send it to me, or ask what it means and just see where it goes.
Okay, and then AB writes, I am a few years past menopause and have trouble getting enough sleep. I'm in excellent health otherwise. I just don't feel sleepy often enough. When I do get some sleep, I can easily stay in bed for up to 12 hours. So I'd like a regular sleeping schedule. What would you suggest?
Well, I use the anxiety one in the first book to help me sleep. Again, the marijuana one is helpful, but I find myself, and I think part of it is the energy that we're going through, is that we just, I keep real irregular hours. I can be so tired at 8 o'clock, I go to sleep, I get up at 11, I work for a few hours, I go to sleep again, and I just live with it. It helps a lot because I don't have anybody, that I'm not bothering anybody but my dog, and he doesn't care. So I don't know what the whole answer for that is. I think sometimes our body needs more sleep and other times it needs less, and we're convinced that that we need 8 hours every night. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think we have to let our body decide as long as we're taking care of ourselves. And I'm certain you're not drinking caffeine or anything like that. And if you aren't sleeping well, you might consider getting more exercise. If you're exercising enough or working hard, usually you don't have any trouble getting to sleep.
Okay, and I like that. I like your sleep schedule, that you roll with it that way. That's a good reminder for everyone. Now, Claus has a question. Which glyph should one use to remove the energy from someone doing voodoo on one?
There was one I mentioned that would take away curses. Probably that one for implants. I believe that implants, but also, and here's the I might grab a pen and write this down. Every morning when you get up, say to yourself, I surround myself with a white light that is impenetrable by any energy or power that is not in harmony with my body. Every morning, I surround myself with a white light that is impenetrable by any energy or forces or power that is not in harmony with my body. And this will also help you with electromagnetic energies.
Okay, thank you. Is there a glyph for personal power?
Personal power. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by personal power.
Empowerment, I would say.
Empowerment. Yeah, I think we're kind of working on the whole system as you remove, like when I first started using the glyphs, I did not know why I was here or who I really was. And the more I removed the emotional baggage, now I have no doubt, and the empowerment just came. You already have that power. It's just covered up. And it will just blossom. It will just literally blossom. Right now, I feel like, I don't know how to describe it, but I feel so good and so alive and so powerful. Sometimes I feel so powerful I can't believe myself. I'm not going to walk on water yet, but it just comes as the more you work on it, the more you see it. See it is already there. You have the power. You just need to uncover it.
Okay. And she also said self-esteem, and it's a belief in ourself, right? Thank you.
There again, there's the glyphs, those glyphs in the first one. I have long paragraphs for each glyph to remove the emotional baggage, and sometimes it's removing the phrase, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough, or to remove I am not worthy type mentality. And there are about 3 or 4 of the glyphs in the first book that will work on all of those related issues. Also, acutapping will be in the both books. It has the thing on tapping. If you're thinking like you're getting ready to give a talk and you are concerned about losing control, then you tap on that. If you're afraid that you will be embarrassed in front of you, tap on that, whatever the fear with issue is. So just tap on that, and it will help remove a lot of that stuff that we're holding into us that affects our self-esteem. And I want to mention one of the most powerful things that I ever did was I joined Toastmasters. My guides practically pushed me out the door to go to that. Toastmasters is such a wonderful thing, and it's throughout the world. There's different Toastmaster groups. It helps you build self-confidence in so many ways, more than just public speaking, because we all have something to say, and if you're afraid to get up and speak, you need to work on that. We need to learn to speak out.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Okay, my crown chakra, says Rudolph, is wide open and the energy is buzzing through my whole bodies. Is this coming from viewing the glyphs?
It could be. It could be.
I would say yes.
People have definitely got effects just from seeing the glyphs. Yes, absolutely.
And as for those unneeded fat cells, we hear from Wanda, are any of these glyphs good for releasing excess unneeded fat cells?
I don't know that I have anything programmed into that. I could probably put that into the skin glyph. That's not a bad idea. Because and even those of us who don't have a weight problem, sometimes we will get little fatty deposits. Now, if you're talking about overweight, you're going to have to work on that yourself. But if it's just little fatty cells that sometimes show up in different parts of our body, that's probably not a bad one. I think I should put that into the skin glyph.
Yes, or, if it is for overweight, perhaps you can use any of the stomach digestion and encode those.
For overweight, the emotional healing glyphs are really important because people eat to satisfy a need. It's a lack of self-love. Eating is satisfaction. When you're eating, you feel satisfied, and you're trying to satisfy what is more than just a physical hunger. You're trying to satisfy a sadness. Inner sadness is one of the biggest causes of obesity as far as overeating. People are trying to fill themselves where there's a void, a lack of self-love. And so working with those emotional healing glyphs will help with obesity. It will be a great help. Right, grief and sadness, that's a good one there.
Good. Okay.
Also, all of the emotional ones there are important for that, but that's a big one, grief and sadness. And inner sadness, we're looking for solace. We're trying to satisfy an inner longing and a soul sadness in him.
Mm-hmm. Some people may feel that around birthdays. Just for whatever, for some emotions, and that'll help there too. Now, how do you use surrogates like can you use a stuffed animal as a surrogate for a pet?
Oh, I do that. And if people will go on, if they're on Facebook, there's a page called Unlocking the Power of Glyphs. And I have a picture there of my little dog when she hurt her leg. She hurt it twice. The one time she broke bones in her foot. The other time she just came home with her paw in the air. And I didn't know what it was, but I saved myself with the $100 plus vet bill, and I just started working on it with I used a piece of material that I programmed as a glyph, and I put it on a teddy bear. Teddy bears and dolls are great for using as a surrogate. Just put the glyph where you want it to be on the person, and it'll work. And believe it works. See it in your mind.
Okay, thank you. Believe it. Thanks for that. Aurora says, I use the vertebrae glyph and the money one since yesterday, and this morning I felt something in my solar plexus. Also, I feel low energy. Is this from the glyphs?
Well, I'm sorry, did she use one for vertebrae and the abundance?
Well, the one for money.
I don't know why it should affect it. Something in her solar plexus. She feels something in her solar, some sort of blockage.
I don't know if she's got a blockage. I don't know.
Before you use the abundance glyph, use all of the other emotional healing glyphs. Use those first before you use the abundance glyph. And you're not ready to use the abundance glyph until you use the others, and that's one right there. Right. Use those. That's starting with number, I think that's 2 and 5 and 6. All of the emotional healing glyphs. The fear one, yeah, resentment, all of them. Yes, use them all and use them a few times. People are so anxious to use the abundance glyph, and they're not ready to use that yet.
Interesting.
Yes, all of these. Mm-hmm.
So it's like the energy, yeah, the energy got stuck in her solar plexus.
Yeah, that's a powerful glyph. This is, in all of these glyphs, and that one right there, are so important on animals. If you ever get a rescue animal, that is a big one for a rescue animal, because so many of them have been abandoned, and they're really affects their lives. If you can use these glyphs on animals, and they've had past lives too, we need to remember that. Our animals have had past lives. Use all these emotional healing glyphs on your animals. But getting back to the abundance one, the one for abundance, after you use the others, it's also programmed to give you a some type of a gift. It may be from finding a quarter on the street to more money somehow will come to you. And how much it is depends upon your vibration. I had an incident where I was refunded $500 from a big company, I won't mention the name, that I wasn't due. And I said, so I said, should I give this money back to this company? And the answer, because I want to be ethical, I mean, I really want to work and do the right thing, and sometimes we can go overboard, like thinking, oh, we have to give whatever this is back. Should I give this back to them? And the answer I got was, I gave that to you. It is a gift. All things are of me. There are no exceptions. So what I was being told is everything is God. The power company is God. The gas company is God. Sears is God. the growth, whatever it is all part of God. And if the power company gives you a rebate and then they give you another one by mistake, say thank you. Don't worry about it. Now, when it comes to something personal, like if somebody at the grocery store gives you too much change, I feel like I just got to give it back. When it's a personal exchange of an individual, I can't go along with that. But if Sears Roebuck credits you with some money for a refund that they shouldn't have, let it go. Say thank you, thank you. And this happened when we bought our land here. We're $7,000 too short of buying the land we live on, and all of a sudden $7,000 came in the mail from a company that had already paid me the money that they should have. And we bought the land, and then the company recognized it, and then we went ahead and paid them back over time. But the universe has a way of providing you with something, and in a situation like that, I said thank you, and then we paid them back. So if the company had come back and said, give us back our money, I said, okay, all right, we'll pay you.
Yeah, wow, what a nice little present and gift at the time.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I thought about, it's really interesting. We were meant to have this land.
Yeah, and that's the Holy Ground Farm.
Right, right.
Okay, so a couple of dental things. That was for the abscessed tooth, but there's a few questions here. What about gum recession and halitosis and chipped teeth?
I wrote that into the other glyph, and I probably should write it into this one too. I will work on that one for abscessed teeth. I will work on that and put it, have it for cavities, because everything in this whole life we're just little molecules all floating around there. This is again where we've got to believe anything is possible. And one of the things that's important too, as far as our dental thing, is diet. One of the reasons we have cavities is because we've not been eating the right food. If we clean up our diet, that's certainly a good idea. There's a book out on how we can heal our teeth of cavities. I can't remember the man who wrote it yet, but when you go back to the work of Dr. Weston Price, a dentist who went around the world examining children's teeth in remote areas, they had beautiful teeth with no cavities, but they were all eating natural foods. There was no sugar and white flour and everything. They were just eating off the land. So it's what we're eating, and when we're damaging what we do, we need to change the way we eat a healthier diet.
And this just popped in my mind on the subject of dental. What about braces? I think that kids when it's recommended that teenagers or middle school kids get braces before they get into high school, that really plays on their young egos, their tender egos. And I'm just wondering, could a glyph help one grow straight teeth? When they're born, these children's teeth, before they lose their baby teeth, they're always in this perfect template. So the template is there. Do you think?
Well, yes and no. This goes back, and I encourage people who are really interested in that to look at the work of Dr. Weston Price, because he found in these remote villages that the children had wider jaws because they didn't have the nutritional deficiencies. The narrow face and jaw is the result of the deficiencies. Mm-hmm. The food we've been eating for a long time. As a child, we had white bread, and I would eat a slice of white bread with butter and sugar on. And as a result of generations of nutritional deficiencies, our faces have narrowed, and there is less room for the teeth. And so the teeth are already destined to become crowded even before they come in. Okay. So we have to look at changing the nutrition, and I think this is so important for young people that are going to be parents and girls that are going to be mothers. And when I was carrying my children, I was determined they were going to have good teeth, and I was so ate right, and I took all of the supplements that I was supposed to take, and my children's teeth were far better than mine or my parents. And so part of it, I think, is my mindset. In my mind, I saw that my children were going to have good teeth. But they still needed braces. They still needed braces. So I can't, I don't think a glyph is possible for this. I think we have to go back to teaching nutrition. There's so many subjects in school that are worthless right now, and we need to be teaching more valuable ones like true nutrition. I mean, eating healthy foods and getting rid of all the chemicals and things. So we just have to go back to square one and raise healthier children.
Mm-hmm. On the last subject of, there's two questions on this last subject on dental care. What about crowns, not canals? Some think these are terrible for our bodies. Would we use a detox glyph? And also, probably, she adds, we may have a belief we have bad teeth.
Right, of course, if you believe you have bad teeth, of course, when I was 14, they took me to the dentist, and I had 18 cavities and 12 teeth. And so there's no doubt about it, I had a problem with my teeth. But I forgot where I was going with that. The crowns. The crowns are yeah, I've got crowns I've got a number of crowns, and I have no doubt there's probably some mercury hiding under some of them. Now, what I've read and what I hear and what I'm getting is that we can grow new teeth, those of us who have, and I would have written a glyph that I wanted to grow new teeth, and people have contacted me and they said, could you write a glyph so we could grow new teeth? And I'm going to work on that, because it would be nice for people who have lost teeth, or it would be nice if you have a crown that you could come up with a new teeth. And again, as we're moving into higher dimensions, I just thought if you have a tooth you want to replace in front, I don't want a tooth falling out to replace another one and look like a snaggletooth for a half a year. So this one is going to take a little work and a belief in our power, and again, going into the next dimension, we're going to have an answer for all of this.
Oh, I like that little snaggletooth. Okay. All right, one last little repeat note. I think we may have touched on this, but when these glyphs get creased or folded while sleeping, you know, some say they do get wrinkled. Is that okay?
I've had that happen myself, and I couldn't tell you exactly for sure. I had one, how bad it would have to be before it's damaged. But I do know I had an incident where I had I had injured my leg. My ex-husband was splitting logs, and one large one fell and hit me in the ankle and left a deep gash. And I put glyphs on for healing and to fight infection. And after several days, I did get an infection anyway, and I didn't know why. And I looked at the glyph, and it had been slightly damaged. So I looked, and I really need to clean the wound out better, which I did, and I put on a new glyph, and then it resolved that issue. So that small, it was like a little drop of water had splashed on the glyph. So that was enough to damage the glyph. So if there's any damage to it at all, whether it's wrinkled, I like to think if it's a little wrinkle, it's not going to hurt anything. But it's hard to say for sure. But if we can keep them from wrinkling, that's good. But I know I was told to use one on my heart chakra. Well, if you're sleeping and you wear it on your heart chakra, it's going to get wrinkled, for a woman anyway.
Yeah, that's why you make copies. And if people have the hard copy books, then how do you recommend they use the glyphs? Make a copy of the glyphs from the book, the hard copy?
Right. Well, in the first book, there are duplicate pages of the glyphs, so you could tear out a whole page and still have a page of the glyphs. But you could make copies of them, yes. The second book, I didn't do that. It just has one page of each series of the glyphs, and then you just put it on your copy machine and make a copy of it.
Okay, and the last few questions, we showed the one for the eye, clear vision. Does that work for stigmatism?
It should. Here's the thing. With myself, I have improved my vision about 75%. I was very nearsighted, and I have worked on that. And I have just told myself I didn't have astigmatism, and I used the glyphs, and at some point it just left. I can't tell you if it was the glyphs or the power of my mind. So I really couldn't say, but I don't address that per se in the glyph. It might not be a bad idea if I had it in there. But I just did it. My astigmatism is gone, and my vision is about 75% improved.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Again, it goes back to that intention and belief that if you want to take any of these and readjust them, you can encode it with your intentions.
Right.
When you
just
ask.
tell it what you want. Right. Tell it what you want it to do. Intend that it will.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see. Can you share your Facebook page again?
Unlocking the Power of Glyphs.
Okay.
Please like my page.
Yes, go like
I have another page, Holy Ground Farm, for the work we do with children. And do look at my website, which is holygroundfarm.org, because it will show the work we're doing. We're doing some work with the children in Nepal right now. That is, we just picked up another orphanage with 14 children that we're assisting, and just the other day I got the picture of this cutest little girl. I've got to get it on the website. She is so precious that, bless her heart, that they asked if we could help. She lost both her parents, so we're going to help out. But they really need help over there because they have so little. And we sent them some money, and they showed pictures of all their old shoes that were falling apart and the new shoes that they got. So that was precious.
Wow. Oh, that's good work that you do. Thanks for that. Okay, let's see. There's one here. The one for the hearing. Where would you put that?
Right under the ear. There's a chakra, right? If you put your finger up there under your ear, you will feel a depression. Put it right there.
Okay.
On a dog, if it's on a dog, I put one on his solar plexus simply because it's be hard to put one under his ear, and I also did it remotely.
Okay. What glyph could be used for regrowing an appendix that was removed a long time ago?
I would go ahead and use that one for Candida and intend. The intestinal one, that's also for intestinal regeneration. So regenerate issues with your intestine, and just intend and see it in your mind, that know in your mind it can work, and see yourself doing it. And intend that it takes any bone marrow or stem cells that your body needs to resolve the issue.
Okay. Do you need to repeat the affirmation every time you use the glyph?
I don't. Maybe I should, but I don't.
Okay.
Some people said they feel that's really important. It certainly doesn't hurt, but I have to confess that I don't. I lay there, and I've got a whole pile of glyphs in a little box there, and I grab whatever I feel like I need, and I'm telling on myself here. But when you start, you certainly should. It helps. There's energy in those affirmations. There's definite energy there.
Mm-hmm. And hormone imbalances.
Oh, your glyph for the female reproductive system. There are about 4 or 5 glyphs that have it written in there for hormone, to resolve hormone imbalances, but that one definitely will help.
Okay, great. And so, again, to recap here, Jean has 2 books. Her first one is Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, and the second one is The Sacred Symbols of Light, and those can be found at holygroundfarm.org, or you can also go on Amazon.com. And for the first webinar recording of this, if you're interested in that, you can go to acoustichealth.com/JeanLogan1.htm, or go to Retreats Calendar, acoustichealth.com. Thank you so much, Jean. We are going to have a great year next year. We'll be back with Jean's updated book, her new glyphs and her new book. And also you have a very special ceremony about empowerment. So we'll just take a quick little example, or what we want to take, like a little poll and generate interest if people are in an empowerment ceremony. Can you explain more on this?
Right. What an empowerment of a pendant that would send healing energy out to people of the world, to the earth, and healing energy to the user. And since we're dealing with people all over the world, we're saying that you get the pendant that you want or use. Take one of your own where you hold it in your hand, or more than one if you want to give them as a gift. And we'll empower it. And I've heard people tell me about remarkable things that these pendants have done. And these also can be empowered to help protect us from electromagnetic energy and whatever we want to put into them. And so if you're interested in having a ceremony where we do that, let Lorraine know, and we will plan it. And you could, like I say, you could take more than one pendant, and that would be a terrific thing to do. And it would be what it's powered to do is, with every beat of the heart, it will pulse out a message to the earth, to the people of the earth, and to the universe of healing.
Well, absolutely, yes. We will let you all know when we have that empowerment ceremony taking place. It'll be in 2014, in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. And thank you, Jean, so much. This is really incredible. You've got a lot of knowledge. And I just have a question. You have a PhD, but yet you know so much about the physical body. Is this just from your research, or do you feel that it was given to you as these glyphs were given to you?
Oh, a lot of the information was given to me by source, things that I had never dreamed or heard before. But I used to work at a veterans hospital and studied medical technology, so I do have a bit of a background. But then when I went to school, I had to study to get my degree. I studied biology and so forth, so in human anatomy. So, and as I created the glyphs, I learned more and got myself a medical dictionary, and just came by a little bit at a time.
Amazing.
And I wanted to mention again, to remind everybody, think about these books as a Christmas present for your loved ones. They'd be invaluable.
Yes, and they can use them any way they want.
Right, right.
Well, thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you, Jean. Any last words as we part ways today?
One of the things I say, I do have videos on YouTube under the name Holy Ground Farm, and one of the things I say is I tell people how they can empower their own glyphs. The important thing in your life when it comes to everything is believe in your power. You have the power of God, and believe in your power. And my blessings to everyone, and I send my love out to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Jean Logan, holygroundfarm.org, for joining us today. And thank each and every one of you for taking an interest in this. Use these glyphs, heal yourself, heal the world, and share your stories with us. Your stories of how these work give credibility to this. And can we imagine a world where it really is this simple to heal? Yes, so share it and get this out there. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Goodbye now.